It is not possible to be part of a globally interconnected world without accepting our share of responsibility for the environment and for future generations. One way to take charge of environmental impact is by reducing dependency on traditional sources of energy and channeled mainly into the modernized generation of power. At Skoda Auto Volkswagen India, we are taking strides to implement simply clever solutions to minimize the impact that our operations have on the environment. As one of the world's fastest growing economies, we cannot afford to slow down. But that doesn't mean we cannot tap into an abundant and unlimited source to meet our needs. Green Future Factory is not just a fancy term for us. We are putting to use the available rooftop space for solar power generation.
What you are seeing surrounding me is one of the biggest rooftop solar power plant, not only in the Volkswagen Group, but any automobile industry in the world. We have installed 25,770 modules spread over rooftop area of 65,000 square meter. We are going to generate 12 million units against our requirement of 50 million units.
The solar panels will provide the plant with a significant contribution to the total power requirement of 60 million kilowatt-hour.
Go to Zero is the mission statement environment of Volkswagen Group and Skoda Auto. Under the Green Future strategy of Skoda Auto, decarbonization of our manufacturing plant is a key element. We are installing 8.5 megawatts of rooftop solar photovoltaics in Pune plant. This will save 900 tons of carbon dioxide every year, and that is our bid for a greener planet.
This will cater to 20% of our annual energy needs, given we've some 300 days of sunshine. The energy generated on the roof will power operations of the plant. For example, the body shop, paint shop, and the assembly shop. This green energy is good for the environment and cost-effective. In a joint initiative with Green Future, our endeavor is to attain 100% reliance on green energy. At Skoda Auto Volkswagen India, we are committed towards a better today and a greener tomorrow.
So, thank you all. I think you can put my presentation on right now. So, Volkswagen Group, very brief introduction. We have got 13 major brands: Volkswagen, Skoda, Audi, Lamborghini, and Porsche. 5 of which are there very prominently present in India. Volkswagen, Skoda, and Audi, they are manufactured here, and Porsche and Lamborghini are marketed. MAN and Ducati are also present in certain formats over here. Scania is also present in a different format. But the entity that I belong to, Skoda Volkswagen India Private Limited, is into manufacture and sales of these 5 brands. Volkswagen, Skoda, Audi, manufacturing, and Lamborghini, Porsche, sales also. So next slide, please. So it's already a more than 10 years old entity in as far as Volkswagen plant of Pune was concerned, and more than 16 years was about for the Skoda plant that was in Aurangabad. So this Pune plant has already done 1 million cars production operation, and that's what we celebrated last year in Pune. So this is just to show that about the scale of operations that we have in India and the commitment that the European major had towards the Indian markets and Indian capability building. Next plate, please. So Go to Zero is the mission statement environment of Skoda Auto and also Volkswagen Group. And this all is very strong commitment to the 2 degrees centigrade commitment towards the Paris Climate Agreement that we all are a party to. And we want to be absolutely carbon neutral across the entire life cycle of our vehicles by 2050. But that is across the entire part of upstream and downstream supply chain, the production, as well as recycling. So my major focus area to talk about today is about production. So production is about, if you see the second column here, is about called Green Factory, where we are focused upon making our plant and operations absolutely carbon neutral. Please come to the next slide. So this is just a part of it. You can see the green product, green factory, and green retail, the 3 areas that we are working upon. And if you see bottom, we have got 4 goals: decarbonization index, BEV share, how we want to bring the BEV share in this. Right now, more focus is towards the Europe, towards US and China markets. And slowly, it certainly will pick up in the India region also, depending upon the policy guidelines and the regulatory framework and other infrastructure availability. Resources is a major function where we have been working for the last more than 10 years now. The UEP is a German word, which basically talks about the share of 5 resources, that is energy, CO2, solid waste, water, and VOCs, volatile organic compound. And we have got our very own, very structured and very strong internal compliance management system towards environment. So it goes into the grassroots and each and every corner of the organization that we are very committed to the environmental compliances. Next slide, please. So these are 2 major goals that we are working upon. One we have already achieved. Our both the Pune plant and Aurangabad plant are now certified for zero waste to landfill. So we are more than 98.99% certified, no waste that goes to the landfill. And whatever 1% is left, that's also a challenge area, which we are working very hard. And we hope to also overcome that problem. So by next year, we target that we should be absolutely zero waste to landfill. And the next goal that we have taken is only for 2025, not for a much later time, that by 2025, we should be totally carbon neutral in our production areas. That is basically scope 1 and scope 2. Next page, please. So we did analyze our energy mix. If you can see the bottom curve that bottom that pie chart, we see that we have got a mix of our electrical requirements, then CNG that we use for our basically heating purposes in our paint shops, and then we have got our vehicles which we are operating, which are basically running on diesels or petrol. So how do we really target towards becoming absolute zero by 2025? That's what is the goal that we are working upon. Next slide, please. As Mr. Rustagi already pointed out in this presentation, that India certainly has got a lot of potential and it has got a lot of cost economics built up into it. So India certainly is so abundant with solar energy all over, which is, available literally free, whether you go to any part of the country. Absolutely. You can see that, just 1 6 month of August to December, we got substantial amount of solar concentration available to us, which we can tap and harness and use, and we can bring down our overall levels. So we worked on the 2-pronged approach of that. We work on any energy efficiency in our plants, that whatever operations we do, whatever heat, whatever energy we can recover, whatever level of from conventional tube lights to going to LED-based systems and all our energy efficient devices, that we have got a whole set of ambassadors within the plant working, green future ambassadors, who are doing continuously improvements in their respective areas to reduce the emissions by reducing the consumption itself. So we are focused by monitoring the electricity consumption per car. Next slide, please. So we also said that what is the right way to really address the GHG emission in the solar energy, and what type of energy mix we can get best out of it. And we found that one of the worst methods is just in the present circumstances, whatever rooftops we had available, we could go up to 15% of our energy mix requirement by solar energy. So this was one study that we did way back in 2018. Next slide, please. And same way, we could find that how much of CO2 emissions we can save upon that, up to maximum of 22% CO2 emissions we could save as far as the GHG emissions were concerned. Next slide. And so if you see in our plants, we have covered almost the entire space of our body shop and assembly shop areas with an 8.5 megawatt rooftop solar plant. And with this plant, we came to our first level, which of our targets. Now we are already in the process of installing another 10 megawatts of rooftop solar, which we can see in the upper right side, 2021. 2023-24, again, we are progressing and towards either we go in for PPA agreements to buy energy from outside, or we generate on our own. Because generating on our own means, yes, we have got our benefits, but it's got a problem also that we waste upon our very, very precious industrial space also. So we are now toying with the future ideas about how to go in for the right energy mix, what we buy or what we produce ourselves. Next slide. So this is the present plan that we are having and the type of coverage we are doing. And fortunately, we are now having a very ambitious expansion plan. We are coming up with the new models next year, 2021, mid of next year, and already we have got the new plants ready. We can see the more rooftop spaces are ready, and we are going to fill up that also with the rooftop solar, that is another 10 megawatts. So the present plant already has got some 25,770 roof solar cells, a rooftop area of 63,000 square meter was covered. We are able to generate 12.2 million units per year, equivalent to almost 10,200 number of households. And we are saving more than 9,050 tons of carbon dioxide every year. This is almost 15% of our yearly power consumption. Next slide. So this is how we celebrated. So we have got our top management from India as well as from Czech Republic, who are all together to see the first car which was produced with the green energy. So we are all there in the assembly line. This was the first car which moved out of the assembly line with the absolute green energy. It's a Skoda Rapid. Next page. So if we see that as far as the energy economics is concerned, already Mr. Sugi said that yes, it's very beneficial as long as we are having our own rooftop, captive rooftop. It's not really captive, it's there in our plant. So we tied up with the third party AMP Solar. So for them also the major benefit was that they are getting a free space and on the top of our roof. And for us that rooftop was otherwise lying idle. So that's where the major benefit comes out, that we are able to generate something at which is a fraction of the cost of what we're buying. So suppose in terms of rupees, 8 rupee 20 paisa or 8 rupee 50 paisa, that approximate cost comes if I'm buying from the DISCOM, which is a basically state government agency. And if I'm generating on my own rooftop, the cost comes down drastically to around 3 rupees 60 paisa. There's a huge amount of cost economics involved. We always say that good sustainability is good for the business too. Next page. So that's what we have said, that there's a very quantum reduction in electrical bills. And already mentioned in Mr. Rusagi's presentation that when we are going for an OPEX model, we are not really blocking our own money for investments. And we are mostly all the operational matters, all the operational risks are belonging to the supplier, the PP agreement supplier who has put the rooftop on our. But yes, we have gone in for 25-year agreement and we expect that we shall be here for 25 years. We are very committed to Indian market and we want to be a good leader over here also. And yes, there's a very good CO2 reduction initiatives which have come. Next slide. So again, it's a very specific presentation that 16% reduction in CO2 by the solar part, which we have got. Next page. Same effective utilization of rooftop space. We are injecting this energy into our internal 24 kV transformer, which goes to the entire part of the plants. You can see the huge space that we have covered on the rooftop. It's really picturesque and really beautiful to see this scenery. It's a beautiful plant with wonderful, full of biodiversity and full of greenery. Next page. So what are the further hurdles that we expect that to overcome? Very first hurdle that we found was that the mindsets, whether mindset internally or externally. And that was the first thing to break in the people's mind that yes, it's possible to do. And that's the first thing we started with that. Then we came about what business model to really adopt. First was that once the commitment came from top down and then bottoms up involvement happened, then many soft and hard issues were tackled. And we came to this business model of an OPEX. Now, next one is that certainly what we just now talked about, that yes, we have got a weekend power, which we are not really able to utilize properly. So how to really utilize that, whether we get into a battery model or energy storage solutions we are working upon, but still, even though we are not able to utilize the weekend power in totality, it still is a much more financially viable option. Future regulations and what is the make-buy optimizations we'll do is also a challenge we'll work upon. But ultimate goal is by 2025, latest, all our energy, whether it's from the electricity or whether it's from the CNG gas, we should be able to convert to it absolutely green energy. Whether we also toying with the idea of putting a biogas plant for our captive purposes, also expanding our rooftop solar and maybe some more PPAs we'll do. But yes, we'll achieve this goal of 2025 totally carbon neutral. Next slide. That's all. So this is a brief summary of what we have done: energy conservation, waste and reduction, and CO2 reduction. We are already a zero liquid discharge facility, and more than 97%, 98% of our solid waste is totally recycled. And measures are underway to be a zero waste factory. And we already talked a lot about the energy conservation and the zero CO2 initiatives. That was my brief about it, and we are really very, very committed, and we want to be a contributor to a very clean, green world with our sustainable mobility solutions. Thank you. Any questions I'd like to take in the end?